Hi! Healthy eating. There's so much information out there, but what does science actually say? In this video, you'll learn the core principles behind all scientifically proven diets and the official dietary guidelines used by governments around the world. I'll dispel some common myths, including those about the supposed benefits of natural juices. For example, I'll explain why freshly squeezed fruit juice can pose similar health risks to Coke with added sugar. I'll also show you where to find the dietary guidelines developed specifically for your own country by your government. I'm Alex Gerasimenko. Let's go! In 2019, the Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO) and the World Health Organization (WHO) jointly released Sustainable Healthy Diets Guiding Principles. Prepared by 33 leading global scientists, these principles consolidate the latest evidence on nutrition. Today, they serve as the foundation for dietary approaches worldwide. You will find a link to the guidance in the description below this video. Some of these principles may seem familiar, and some may appear very simple. Still, it's worth revising them. So, principle number 1. Sustainable healthy diets start with early initiation of breastfeeding until 6 months of age, and continued breastfeeding until 2 years and beyond, combined with appropriate complementary feeding. Eating habits, metabolism, and the risk of non-communicable disease, NCDs, are shaped during the first 1000 days of life, pregnancy plus the first 2 years after birth. Without a proper start, talking about healthy diets at the population level makes little sense. With the very first drops of colostrum, an infant receives a concentrated source of antibodies and biologically active compounds that play a key role in immune protection. This significantly reduces the risk of infections and infant mortality. Switching to infant formula should be considered a last resort, used only when breastfeeding is impossible or insufficient. Exclusive breastfeeding until 6 months is the WHO position. No water, no juices, no teas, no cereals, only breast milk. Science has shown that breast milk fully covers the infant's energy and nutrient needs. It contains optimal protein, fats essential for brain development, and oligosaccharides that support a healthy gut microbiota. However, after 6 months, breast milk alone is no longer sufficient, especially in terms of calories, iron and zinc. That is why WHO emphasizes the introduction of appropriate complementary feeding, nutritious and safe foods. Ultra-processed foods, sweet purees and drinks, salt and sugar are not allowed. Recommended foods include boiled or steamed vegetables and fruits, such as zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, pumpkin, carrots, apples, pears, and bananas. WHO does not define an upper age limit for breastfeeding. The duration depends on the mother's choice and the child's condition. So, if your mother breastfed you for a long time, good for you. Principle 2. Healthy diets are based on a great variety of unprocessed or minimally processed foods, balanced across food groups, while restricting highly processed food and drink products. This principle contains several key ideas. Great variety. There is no single food in nature that can meet all human nutrient requirements. People need to consume a variety of foods of plant and animal origin to ensure the health of their bodies. unprocessed or minimally processed foods. Heavy processing reduces fiber and micronutrient content. Some forms of processing lead to very high level of salt, added sugar, and saturated fats. Such foods increase the risk of obesity, metabolic disorders, and chronic diseases. By minimal processing, WHO refers to washing, cutting, freezing, and pasteurization plant foods, vegetables, fruits, nuts, and similar products. For eggs, fish, and meat, thermal processing, boiling, stewing, or frying is not only acceptable but often necessary. But that is where processing should stop. Industrial products with preservatives, additives, colorants, and saturated fats fall outside the concept of healthy diets. Balanced across food groups. Once again, healthy eating means combining plant foods, protein sources, including animal-based ones, and mostly unsaturated fats of plant origin. WHO does not promote mono diets. Yes, buckwheat is a nutritious food. However, eating only buckwheat for weeks can harm your health. Principle 3. For health, people need whole grains, legumes, nuts, and abundance and variety of fruits and vegetables. Modern science considers plant-based nutrients to be the safest and healthiest foundation of the human diet. With these foods, we obtain most vitamins, minerals, dietary fiber, healthy fats, and other essential nutrients. This is why plant foods should dominate dietary patterns. Why does WHO insist on whole grains? Refined grains, which form the basis of many modern diets, are mechanically processed to remove the bran and germ, leaving only the endosperm. This strips away most fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Without fiber, carbohydrates are absorbed much faster, increasing the risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes. White flour and products made from it, bread, pasta, pasteurized, are refined. White rice, semolina, and cornflakes are also refined grains. Fiber from whole grains slows carbohydrate absorption, lowers cholesterol, and supports gut health. Whole grains provide more B vitamins, magnesium, and iron. That is why WHO encourages a shift toward whole grain bread, oat, brown rice, buckwheat, barley, and quinoa. Legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas, peas, soy are rich in fiber and high-quality protein, while being low in saturated fat. They can partially replace highly processed meat and reduce the risk of NCDs. Nuts and seeds, walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, peanuts, flax seeds, sunflower seeds provide protein, unsaturated fats, and antioxidants, supporting cardiovascular health. Important: this refers to natural, unsalted, and unroasted nuts. WHO-referenced studies recommend consuming at least 30 grams of nuts per day, which may add 1 to 2 years of life expectancy. Fruits and vegetables, abundance and variety. Due to WHO guidance, everyone older than 10 years of age should aim for at least 400 grams of fruits and vegetables per day. They provide fiber, vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients, supporting overall health and reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease and cancer. At the same time, FAO and WHO do not push humanity towards veganism. Millions of years of evolution made us omnivores. We need high-quality protein, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, iodine, and other nutrients found in animal source foods. These bring us to Principle 4. Sustainable healthy diets can include moderate amounts of eggs, dairy, poultry and fish, and small amounts of red meat. WHO recognizes animal source foods as valuable nutrient source while calling for moderation. In many countries, modern dietary patterns include excessive consumption of red and processed meat. Such patterns increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer and type 2 diabetes, as confirmed by numerous studies. Many people will wonder, in what proportion should we consume plant and animal foods? WHO does not provide strict numerical ratios, but says that animal proteins should preferably be replaced with plant-based proteins and that plant fats should predominate in the diet. Let's illustrate this approach using a sample plate where animal and plant proteins are present in equal amounts, and plant-based fats account for 70% compared to 30% from animal sources. We'll use 170 grams of cooked lentils, 100 grams of fresh bell pepper, 1 teaspoon of olive oil, 5 grams, 40 grams of bread, and just 60 grams of skinless chicken. Here you are. Notice how little chicken there is. Most Europeans and Americans are used to seeing a much larger portion of animal-based foods on their plates. Shifting menu towards healthier patterns may require a substantial change in eating habits. We'll return to our plate shortly, but for now, let's move on to Principle 5. Safe and clean drinking water should be the fluid of choice. Water is crucial to life. Metabolic reactions occur in water environment. WHO considers clean drinking water the primary source of hydration, not juices, sweetened beverages, milk or any other drinks. Safety matters more than perceived health benefits. Even a healthy drink loses its value if it contains sugar, alcohol, excessive caffeine or contaminants. WHO does not set a strict intake norm because needs vary by body weight, activity level, climate and other factors. In moderate climates, estimated daily needs are women 2 to 2.3 liters, men 2.5 to 3 liters. About 20 to 30% of this comes from food. Principle 6. Healthy diets are adequate, reaching but not exceeding energy and nutrient needs across the life course. This principle is about balance, not more is better. Energy deficiency leads to stunted growth, weakened immunity and muscle loss. Energy excess leads to obesity, diabetes and cancer. An excess of only 200 calories per day for 10 days is likely to result in a weight gain of nearly 200 grams. Human calorie needs vary depending on age, body weight and level of physical activity, and on average amount to women 1,600 to 2,400 calories per day, men 2,000 to 3,000 calories per day. Maintaining a proper balance of the three macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats and proteins, is essential for optimal health. Carbohydrates are the body's primary source of energy, the fuel that powers our cells. According to WHO recommendations, carbohydrates should provide 45 to 75% of total daily energy intake. Fats are the most concentrated source of energy. 1 gram of fat contains about twice as many calories as 1 gram of carbohydrates. However, fats are not just fuel. They play a crucial role in many biochemical processes. Fats or lipids are a key component of cell membranes. The proper functioning of the nervous system critically depends on fats. The brain, for example, is often described as the fattest organ, consisting of approximately 60% fat by dry weight. Therefore, in adults, at least 15% of total daily energy intake should come from fats. On the other hand, to avoid excess energy storage, fat intake should generally not exceed 30% of total energy. Proteins are an essential structural component of the human body. Contrary to popular belief, however, our protein requirements are not extremely high. An intake of 10 to 15% of total daily energy is generally sufficient for adults. This corresponds to approximately 50 to 75 grams of proteins per day for a person of healthy body weight, consuming about 2000 calories per day. Let's return to our sample plate. It contains approximately 430 calories, or about 1/6 of man's daily energy needs. Thanks to the lentils and chicken, the plate provides about 40 grams of protein, which is more than 60% of the recommended daily intake. WHO also emphasizes the importance of macronutrient quality, not just quantity. Carbohydrates should come mainly from whole grains, vegetables, fruits and pulses. At the same time, free sugars, such as sucrose, fructose and glucose, should be strictly limited throughout life. WHO recommends that adults consume no more than 50 grams of free sugars per day, about 12 level teaspoons, and preferably limit intake to 25 grams, about 6 teaspoons. This recommendation applies not only to industrially produced sugar, but also to sugars naturally present in fruit, juices and syrups. From WHO's perspective, the added sugar in Coke poses a similar metabolic risk as a naturally occurring sugar in fruit juice. This may seem surprising, since the chemical composition of sugars, fructose and glucose, does not change when fruit is produced into juice. The key difference lies in the destruction of the cellular structure. In whole fruit, sugars are locked inside plant cells and surrounded by fiber. In this form, they are absorbed into the bloodstream slowly. In juice, fiber is either removed or significantly broken down. The sugar becomes free and enters the bloodstream rapidly. Another important risk factor is the lack of satiety. Try eating 5 or 6 whole oranges at once. It's pretty tough, right? But drinking the juice from the same oranges, that's easy. You can do it in less than 30 seconds. Whole fruit has fiber that keeps you satisfied. Juice, however, delivers a hit of sugar without the fullness. Your brain does not realize that you are full, so it's easy to overconsume calories. That's why the WHO puts the sugar in fresh juice in the same category as industrial sugar. To your body, it's basically the same metabolic burden, which increases the risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes. A similar concern applies to honey. Although natural, it is still a concentrated source of free sugars. Winnie the Pooh was not aware of the WHO recommendations. After overeating honey, he became overweight and got stuck in rabbit's hole.
Oh, help and bother. I'm stuck. Oh dear.
WHO is equally strict about fat quality. In the human diet, 3 main types of fat can be distinguished. Unsaturated fats. These fats are typically liquid at room temperature. They are found mainly in plant foods. Concentrated sources include vegetable oils such as olive, sunflower and rapeseed oil. Nuts, seeds and avocados are also rich in unsaturated fats. Among animal products, fatty marine fish such as salmon and mackerel are notable sources. Unsaturated fats are generally considered the most beneficial and safest type of fat. Saturated fats. Saturated fats have a compact structure, which is why they are usually solid at room temperature. You'll find them in fatty meats, beef or pork, as well as poultry skin, butter, and full-fat dairy. They are also hidden in plant oils like palm and coconut oil. Saturated fats should provide less than 10% of total energy intake. For an adult, this corresponds to roughly 20 grams of fats per day, approximately the amount found in 100 grams of cheese and 200 to 300 grams of pork. According to WHO, excessive consumption of saturated fats increases the risk of cardiovascular disease and premature mortality. Trans fats. Trans fats are also solid or semi-solid at room temperature. They can be divided into two types. Industrial trans fats are formed during the partial hydrogenation of vegetable oils, a process that makes liquid oils more solid and stable for storage and frying. Typical sources are traditional margarines, processed snacks like crackers and cookies, and of course fast food and deep-fried convenience meals. Naturally occurring trans fats are found in meat and dairy products from ruminant animals such as cows, sheep and goats. Trans fat intake is of particular concern because it raises bad cholesterol and lowers good cholesterol, significantly increasing cardiovascular risk. Globally, trans fat intake is estimated to cause up to 500,000 premature deaths per year. Trans fats should provide less than 1% of total energy intake, around 2 to 2.5 grams per day. Just one standard serving of French fries or a couple of deep-fried donuts may reach their maximum daily limit. WHO recommends eliminating industrially produced trans fats entirely and replacing them with fats from plant sources. In simple terms, instead of fast food, red meat and high-fat dairy products, it's better to prioritize plant-based foods. Principle 7. Healthy diets are aligned with WHO guidelines to reduce diet-related NCDs. Which WHO recommendations are these? It is not just one document, but a set of official WHO guidelines. You can find the link to explore them in the video description. The link will take you to the official WHO page. There, you'll find the core healthy diet guidelines, including recommendations on fats, sugar, salt and disease prevention. Everything is backed by solid scientific evidence. Generally speaking, the WHO does not back diets that are high in saturated fats and heavily meat-based. They also don't support diets designed only for short-term results. And they are pretty critical of slogans like "eat whatever you want as long as it's natural." Besides, the WHO effectively says no to some popular trends, like the keto diet, where fats can make up 70 to 80% of your daily calories. Truly healthy diets are those that support long-term health for most people, not just specific groups such as athletes. Principle 8. Sustainable healthy diets contain minimal or no pathogens, toxins and contaminants. According to WHO estimates, over 500 million people worldwide fall ill from foodborne diseases every year, and roughly 400,000 deaths annually are linked to these illnesses. That's why for the WHO, food safety is synonymous with public health. Now you might wonder, why does the WHO say minimal or no if possible? The organization recognizes that zero risk is impossible. However, they insist that risks must be minimized, strictly controlled, and scientifically justified. So what really matters here? It's basic hygiene, simple but incredibly effective. The WHO emphasizes that most foodborne infections actually begin at home. Here are the essentials. Wash your hands before preparing food. Wash fruits, vegetables, and leafy greens under running water. And always use separate cutting boards and utensils for raw meat or fish and for cooked foods. Remember, temperature is the main enemy of pathogens. Foods of animal origin must be cooked thoroughly. We are talking about full heat treatment. Also, refrigeration is not optional. Store cooked food at no higher than 4 degrees Celsius and for no longer than 48 hours. The WHO takes a particularly firm stance on mycotoxins, those toxic substances produced by molds. The danger is that they aren't reliably destroyed by cooking. So, if a product becomes moldy, don't just cut off the bad part or try to save it. Throw it away immediately. When it comes to industrial products, compliance with international standards like HACCP and ISO is essential. For you, the consumer, this means a much lower risk of accidental contamination, systematic safety control, and full traceability of what's on your plate. Finally, let's look at some common myths that WHO effectively challenges. Homemade is always safer. Farm-raised means pure. Organic equals risk-free. And natural cannot be toxic. So food safety is determined by control and hygiene, not by romantic ideas about where our food comes from. The FAO and the WHO have called on governments to develop their own national dietary guidelines, based on these principles but adopted to local traditions. So far, about 100 countries have done exactly that. To find the science-based guidelines for your country, just follow the link in the video description. For example, let's look at the Healthy Eating Guidelines for the UK. On this page, you'll find a quick overview of the National Food Model, along with links to all the official documents. There are visual guides for a quick look, as well as long-read resources for those who want to dive deeper into the subject. So, what do you think about these principles? Are you ready to start following them? And which topic would you like us to explore in more detail? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like the video if you found it useful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.